What is happening, everybody? James Hancock here. I'm in a bit of a giddy mood because I just got to watch episodes 3 and 4 of Twin Peaks The Return, or otherwise known as Season 3 of Twin Peaks. I didn't know this until about 2 a.m. last night, that episodes 3 and 4 are available if you have Showtime on demand, which I technically do on my cable box, but it wouldn't let me watch the episodes. But I did a Showtime add-on to my Hulu subscription, and boom, I had access to the episode. Yeah, here I am, 4 episodes deep on my favorite show on television, and man, I haven't had this much fun being a David Lynch fan in a very, very long time. When I first got into him in the late 90s, I had his entire filmography to dissect and dig into and discover, and it was a very heady, euphoric time where I got to just immerse myself, just get soaked in the world of David Lynch. But it's been a very, very long time since I've been able to get soaked in the world of David Lynch, because there just hasn't been that much new stuff in the 21st century, and especially since Mulholland Drive, which was a lifetime ago. But after having watched 4 hours of Twin Peaks, I am just experiencing this giddy thrill of rediscovering one of my all-time favorite filmmakers. Basically, this summer, I'm going to run out of positive adjectives, because if he sustains this level of bizarre, mysterious, terrifying, erotic storytelling, I'm just going to basically, my videos are going to be like, this episode was good too, and this episode was good too, and I can't wait to see the next one because this one was good too. But that's basically what I'm going to do right now for episodes 3 and 4. But because they came out together, and they're going to be coming out on cable next weekend together, I'm going to review them together as well. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I think it would be a huge disservice to the show to try to do a full official synopsis or summary of each individual episode, mostly because I will not pretend or claim to have a full understanding of the story. It's going to take a long time, many reviewings, to tease out all the hidden meanings and Easter eggs, and even then, my own understanding will probably differ radically from another fellow fans' interpretation of the story, because David Lynch does not tell straightforward stories. We have the logic of a dream, the logic of emotion. It's very enjoyable and it's very stimulating, but it's hard to sit down like in a homework assignment and write out from start to finish what exactly transpired. We can only attempt to put it into our own words, but David Lynch is a filmmaker, and film is a visual medium, and he is more than happy to allow the audience to come to their own conclusions. So I'm just going to talk about major impressions, major details that I really loved, and perhaps ask a few questions as well. But one of the big things I love about this new season is how each episode begins and ends with these beautiful credit sequences. Obviously, at the beginning we have the classic Twin Peaks music. We have new shots of the waterfall and of those creepy red curtains and the Black Lodge. But we also have these incredible closing credit sequences, which we've gotten, which we've seen the last 3 episodes, where you're back at the Bang Bang Bar, and there's a different but equally cool band playing each time. I mean, the band, my favorite so far was definitely the band at the end of episode 2. But it's so damn cool that every episode kind of brings us full circle back to Twin Peaks with a lot of familiar faces hanging out in the bar. And sometimes we don't even see the characters. We just see the band and they just jam as we get the credits. It reminds us that this show is not meant to be taken but so seriously. It's grim and it's scary and it's terrifying and it's brooding and it's all enigmatic and all these various whatever words you care to use, but it's also just a really, really good time. And the music, I can't wait to get the official season 3 soundtrack, because the songs have just been extraordinary. And speaking of the music, we did have our first, great callback to some of the brilliant score from season 1 and 2, where there's a great scene where Bobby, who's now all grown up, got gray hair, working as a police officer, when he walks in and sees Deputy Hawk and a couple other people working on some of the files that involve Laura Palmer. When he sees her picture, he just starts weeping as all these memories come flooding back. But it reminded me of one of my all-time favorite moments in David Lynch, period, is when Laura Flynn Boyle's character in season 1 realizes that something's gone wrong with Laura, and the music swells, and it's just this eerie, beautiful, chilling, moving stuff. We got a little taste of that in episode 4. But the main thrust of these 2 episodes is all about Agent Cooper and his splintered identity and trying to get back to something resembling sanity or his normal life. Now, I will not claim to have a complete understanding of what has happened to our beloved Agent Cooper, but it seems as if he's been broken up and divided into several fragments, all of which represent one part of FBI agent Dale Cooper's overall personality and skill set. We have his kind of evil outlaw doppelganger who's very dangerous, very capable, and totally lethal. but we also have this really, really innocent side of him, represented by this new character named Dougie, who has this really innocent, kind of suburban ideal existence, but he's very sweet, but almost like a big child. And then we've got like the spiritual remnant of Dale Cooper, and he's almost a blank slate. He's having a hard time communicating. He can only repeat things, and is barely functional. But it seems like each one of these personalities is a fragment, and they're living an incomplete existence, and I'm just wondering what it's going to take to bring them all together. And who knows, as we saw a little taste of in episode 4, the secret just might be coffee, because when Dougie gets his first taste, chugs way too much of it, like spits it out, but he kind of comes to life. If there's one thing that we all know and love from the original Twin Peaks is coffee and pie, and Cooper fucking loves coffee and pie intensely. And when he first even sees coffee in his cup with his, like, Dougie's coffee cup or whatever, he's coffee. And that's when I realized, oh shit, like he might actually finally be coming back from the precipice. Because here we are 4 episodes deep, and we really haven't had a chance to see Dale Cooper in full-blown FBI super badass agent mode yet. But I'm jumping ahead of myself because we can't overlook the extraordinary, essentially first 30 minutes of episode 3, which, if you like to use the adjective Lynchian or Lynch-esque, I can't think of a more Lynch-esque or Lynchian sequence at any point in the history of Twin Peaks than this first 30-minute bit, where it begins with this extraordinary sequence where after he has escaped from the Red Room and he's falling through space, as we saw in episode 2, he briefly went into that glass cube in New York, but he goes into this giant purple domain. It's got this huge ocean or body of water, as well as this really bizarre building, and inside there's this creepy woman with no eyes, and he's struggling to communicate with her, and there's this menacing presence banging at the door, and there are all these weird locked, sealed doors with various numbers. I think it's no coincidence that the door he eventually goes through has a number 3 on it, and as he goes through it, we basically see how Dougie and the evil Agent Cooper and our Agent Cooper are all having these horrible like vomiting sprees and that sort of thing. They're obviously all connected. The evil doppelganger flips his car and he's just a giant mess. Meanwhile, Dougie appears back in the Red Room while Agent Cooper basically comes out like smoke and shadow and materializes on the floor. And we have these very humorous bits where Dougie at that time was getting involved or enjoying himself with a very, very beautiful prostitute, and she's confused and alarmed and kind of wants to help, but also kind of wants to get rid of the guy, and ends up just dropping him off at a casino where he proceeds to follow these visions and just strikes it rich, hitting every single jackpot you possibly can on the slot machines. But man, that opening part of episode 3, what I really love is it's so completely otherworldly that if you were to try to articulate specifically what's happening, you're just going to end up tripping over yourself. But you have this great bit where he gets led out on top of this giant box in outer space, and the girl ends up pulling a lever and electrocuting herself and falling off into the yawning void of space, and this giant face floats by. I mean, it's just totally, completely bizarre, but this is what we signed up for. This is what we all hoped and prayed for when we heard that David Lynch was coming back to this world of Twin Peaks, and so we're getting it like on fucking steroids. But yeah, our new befuddled, kind of innocent blank slate Cooper, the only thing he has with him is a key to the hotel in Twin Peaks, and so obviously he's going to try to get back there at some point, but for a while he's trying to almost bluff it, not even trying to bluff his way, he's just allowing people to kind of push him or direct him wherever they think he needs to go. And it turns out Dougie's married to Naomi Watts, who I absolutely love and adored in Mulholland Drive. That's how I first discovered her, and she's had this incredible career since she first started working with David Lynch. And it's only fitting that, you know, a David Lynch alum of her stature would come back and participate in this show. And while in episode 1 and 2 we didn't have a lot of the quirky, idiosyncratic humor of Twin Peaks, in this we get a ton of that because Lucy and Deputy Hawk and a lot of other people are fumbling through all these files related to Cooper and Laura Palmer, and Hawk's looking for something related to his heritage that may or may not be missing from the files, and we get all sorts of funny stuff. Lucy's really, really confused by the thermostat and what happens when people aren't in the building, and she's communicating with Sheriff Truman, and she's really confused by all this background noise, and she thinks he might be fishing. When he comes in, it's played by Robert Forster, who's another David Lynch alum, and she freaks out and starts screaming and crying. She can't handle the idea of cell phones and how people are mobile, and so it's silliness, but it's very, very light. It keeps the show from getting completely, utterly nightmarish. And also, it wouldn't be Twin Peaks without these bizarre, silly moments, especially like when she's confessing how 25 years ago she ate some of the evidence. There's a chocolate bunny in all these case files, and she's feeling all this horrible guilt over it, and Deputy Hawk's pretty convinced that chocolate bunnies have nothing to do with his heritage and that it's unrelated to whatever might be missing from the files. It's all hysterical stuff. I was pleased to see the return of these kind of moments. I guess the only part of these two episodes that I wasn't super into was the arrival of Michael Cera as Lucy's son. And I get what they're going for. I just think the scene didn't quite play perhaps as they hoped. He essentially is living the lifestyle of one of the beats from the 50s. He's got the leather jacket and he thinks he's Jack Kerouac or some other poetic kind of on the road type figure. And Forster kind of indulges him and says, like, may the road always rise to meet your wheels or something like that. And Michael Cera, he's definitely trying to keep it light, keep it funny. For whatever reason, the scene didn't quite work for me, but who knows? For other people, it might be the most hysterical scene of the shows. When the show is bizarre as Twin Peaks, you never quite know what's going to really have an impact on people. But the true, genuine, sincere, phenomenal pleasure of episodes 3 and 4 was the return of David Lynch as Gordon Cole. And we also have the dearly departed, or may he rest in peace, Miguel Ferrer, who was so incredible in the original Twin Peaks, but even better in RoboCop as one of the villains. And I must have seen that movie 100 billion times as a kid. Seeing these two guys in the FBI working together again, it makes this whole world feel complete. All the little characters that I know and love are all, the gang's all here again, and so I feel like we're back on very, very firm footing. Basically, their storyline begins with them investigating the double homicide by the glass cube in New York, and they're totally bewildered by the manner in which this couple died, as well as the brief fleeting images that are seen in the surveillance cameras in the cube. But then they get a call that Agent Cooper has been found in South Dakota, and they rush out to see him because they haven't seen him in 25 years. Of course, that is the evil doppelganger, Agent Cooper, who flipped his car and got arrested, and he's got guns and drugs and like a dog's leg and all this stuff. Anyway, he is in like full evil badass mode, and they're holding him for questioning. And we get this really bewildering interrogation sequence where Lynch and Ferrer are speaking to Cooper, and he's speaking almost like an automaton, and he's trying to do certain gestures that are reminiscent of Cooper, and he's claiming he's been undercover this entire time, and they're just not buying it. We had this great scene afterwards where Ferrer and Lynch with his hearing aid turned all the way up so they can speak in a very conspiratorial whisper. They're basically talking about how something is very wrong and they don't fully understand what's happening. Ferrer, when he shifts his feet on the gravel and moves around, Lynch recoils in horror because, obviously his hearing aid is turned all the way up. But it'll be very interesting to see if they play a role in helping Cooper rediscover his identity. I still don't even quite know what the main story of this season is going to be. Is it the story of Dale Cooper? Are we going to see Dale Cooper kind of reassimilate and start a brand new murder mystery? I mean, who the hell knows? I think, obviously, whatever that dark spectral force was that appeared in that glass cube and murdered those two people, that's obviously going to tie into whatever the main plot is at hand. But obviously, this is Twin Peaks. The plot will zig and zag and wander in a million different directions. So who the hell knows where we're going to go? But I think at some point, obviously, we'll see Cooper back in command of his, with full command of his faculties, investigating this murder. And I just really look forward to seeing the band get back together fully. But it fills me with absolute glee knowing that I've got 14 more hours of David Lynch insanity to look forward to. This whole season of Twin Peaks, 18 hours of David Lynch, is almost basically like take all of his films leading up to this point and combine them. It's roughly the same running time. So we're essentially doubling the David Lynch filmography and the stuff that we can enjoy and to sink our teeth into. Because in season 1 and 2, he only directed a handful of the episodes. He really only put his personal stamp on those because he was busy with Wild at Heart and some other films. This is a rare opportunity to see a singular, masterful, brilliant filmmaker exercising total control over an 18-hour bizarre surrealistic saga, and this might be a first in the history of television in that respect. So I'm just going to enjoy it while it lasts, and when it's all said and done, I look forward to starting over from the beginning and seeing if I can make a little bit more sense of it. It'll be very interesting to see how it all comes together upon a second viewing, but I'm going to wait to rewatch episodes until I'm totally finished so I can really savor it and enjoy it for a second time through. So hope you're checking it out. Hope you're enjoying it. If I got ahead of where you are by going into 3 and 4, I apologize. But for a couple bucks, I think even for a free trial, you can get Showtime on Hulu and go ahead and check out these episodes, which I guess it means it'll be like 2 weeks before I see any new content. But I couldn't help myself. I had to jump ahead. So hope you enjoyed my reaction and review. Please consider giving my channel a subscribe. I'm right around 1,000 subscribers now. We're almost there. So I'm very, very excited to cross over that threshold. And I really, really appreciate you watching my videos. Onwards and upwards.